Shalom, Shalom, Israel's brothers Abayala.
Brother Nakwash.
Coming back at you with another Coco. Like to give our honor and glory to Yahweh Shemel Shah. Another body Shabbat day. Another day to help wake up the hopeful elect. I want to come at you with a quick breakdown on just, knowing how to take correction. You got to know how to take correction, no matter what status, no matter what rank or position, or no matter who you think you are in life. Right? You got to know how to take correction, man. At the highest level, or even at the lowest level. Right? You got to know how to take correction these last days. You got to know how to take instruction. Right? I'm gonna get this precept. Right, I'm gonna kick it off with this. Right, this Proverbs. Yeah, it's the book of Proverbs, chapter 15. Let's start at verse 5. This book of Proverbs, chapter 15, verse 5. A fool despiseth his father's instruction, but he that regardeth reproof is prudent. So you're a fool. Our ultimate father is Yahweh Bashem Yahshua, the Heavenly Father, Yahweh. That's our Heavenly Father. If we despise instruction, if we despise the commandments, let's say somebody's trying to tell you that you're going off and to keep the commandments, right? It's I think you can do a little bit better than this. Nah, I know what I'm doing. Well, ultimately, you're despising your father's instruction. There's a Most High speaking through that. The Most High speaking through His servant, right? But guess what? But he that regardeth reproof is prudent. You will be a prudent man if you know how to regard instruction. You'll be a prudent man if you love to be corrected. If you love to be corrected, the Lord called you prudent. You gotta know. You gotta want to love to be corrected, right? You gotta want to love when somebody's telling you where you're going off at. You gotta love. You want to love to hearing the truth of the Lord, right? Because that brother we going off, he's not telling you the truth. Let me go to the book of Zechariah, chapter 8, and verse 16. You don't want a yes man around you. You want somebody to tell you where you're going off at, man. It's Zechariah 8 and verse 16. These are the things that you shall do. Speak every man the truth to his neighbor. That's the first thing the Lord said, is speak every man the truth to his neighbor. We got to know how to speak truth to our neighbors and correct them when they're going off. But you need to know how to take correction. You need to know how to take correction as well. Execute the judgment of truth and peace in your gates. And let none of you imagine evil in your hearts against his neighbor, and love no false oath. For all these are the things I hate, saith the Lord, man. So at the end of the day, you got to speak truth to your neighbor. Let me get one more precept. Let me go back to Proverbs 15. Right? This is Proverbs chapter 15. And let me start at verse 10. And it says, correction is grievous unto him that forsaketh the way. So a brother, you can tell a brother forsook the way if he doesn't like correction. But stop correcting me. I know that precept. So you think you better than me now because you this, that, and the third? But hold on, brother. All I just said was this, right? You can tell if somebody forsook the way if they don't want to hear correction. If they got that know-it-all spirit. I know it already. I know this. Remember, we already went over that breakdown. If a brother tell you we already went over that, you already know his spirit not in the right place, man. There's no expiration date on these precepts. You should be able to hear these precepts and read these precepts over and over and over again and cut yourself until you get it right, man. Right? What else to say? Correction is grievous unto him that forsaketh the way, and he that hateth reproof shall die. Yeah, ultimately, you're not going to get everlasting life. Ultimately, you're going to die in the land of the living because you don't want to change your ways. The Most High is sending you servants to correct you, but you don't want to take heed. You got that Christianity spirit. Oh, you're just a man. Like you waiting for the Lord to come down from his throne, or sit on the right hand of the Lord, right, to come and tell you in a dream by night, by an apparition that you're going off. You waiting for Job, the 4th chapter, to happen to you. But it may not happen to you. The Most High may just take you out the earth, man. Because the Lord is having mercy by sending his servants to correct you. But if you don't like correction, you're going to die. You got it.
Yeah, that's right. Correction, that's the milk, man. That's the milk. You can't take correction. Your days in this truth and you serving the Lord, your days being in this thing are numbered. Because every man needs correction, right? Everybody needs to be taught. Everybody needs that one man that's gonna guide them and correct them in certain situations. Because again, one mortal man is not Yahweh Shah, right? Man can't say, man, I know all the in-depth breakdowns. I've been in the truth for 2 years and I already know everything, right? No, that's why we have elders. That's why we have right. That's why we have things like counsel, right? To get certain things together, sharpen each other's minds, and that's where correction and reproof comes in, right? This the book of Leviticus, chapter 19. The milk, right? classic, Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 17. It says, thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor and not suffer sin upon him. And ultimately, correction that's real brotherly love. When you correct a brother, you're leading a brother away from the ways of death and from the ways of sin and snares. So ultimately, when you correct a brother, that's the ultimate amount of love. That's the second greatest commandment, loving your brother. Right, reading on, it says, thou shalt not avenge nor hate. It's like, thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Let's go to Proverbs 6 and 23. Right, Proverbs chapter 6 and verse number 23. And it reads thus. It says, for the commandment is a lamp, and the law's light, and reproofs of instruction are the ways of life. So the Lord said reproofs of instruction are the ways of life. So you get life by being corrected, by being reproved. Right? You don't get all the wisdom and knowledge and understanding just by you doing your own thing. No, you get it from men older than you, men that's been in situations before you. You get it from the elders. You may get it from a brother that's been in this thing longer, maybe from your mother or your father. Right? But nevertheless, the Lord said reproofs. I'm gonna read that last part again. It says, in reproofs of instructions. And ultimately, correction is instruction. It's instructing you on the right thing to do in certain situations. It says, are the ways of life. And we know that keeping the commandments are the ways of life. So essentially, you accepting correction, and that's a way of life. And we're about to go into it, but you read some of our forefathers, they were able to get reproved. They weren't puffed up saying, well, you know what I'm saying, I'm so-and-so, right? I'm the king. I'm the bishop of this church. You can't tell me none. You know, even the top men, like the brother said, no matter what rank you are, no matter if you're a prospect, you a soldier, you an officer, or a captain, or a bishop, or etc., whatever your office is, nobody is above correction. All right, what you got?
That's right. Nobody's above correction, man. Man, nobody's above correction. And all of our forefathers got corrected. I mean, at the end of the day, it just goes back to just, telling your brother the truth and being able to accept the truth for what it is, man. All right, I'm going to go back to Proverbs chapter 15. All right, this Proverbs chapter 15 and verse 31. The ear that heareth reproof of life abideth among the wise. So the Lord said you abide among the wise when you hear the proof, right? When you hear correction. You're a wise person, man. But you need to abide among the wise. You need to be around men that's going to tell you the truth no matter how you feel. That's a wise gathering, the Lord said. He that refuseth instruction, so if you want to refuse instruction, you want to resist the way of the Lord telling you to do something, right? You want to resist those precepts the brother's bringing up because he's seen an infirmity in you, right? Guess what? He that refuseth instruction despiseth his own soul, meaning you hate yourself. You don't like yourself. You don't like you. You hate you. You hate that you're in this thing. You hate what the Lord called you to do. Why? Because the Lord's correcting you so you can be on a better way, a better route. But you don't want to be on that right route. You want to do the lust of the flesh. You just want to do what you want to do. The Lord said if you refuse instruction, you despise your own soul. But he that heareth reproof getteth understanding. And if you would love getting understanding, if you want to receive understanding, you have to hear reproof. You're not always right. You're not perfect right now, brother. You're trying to be perfected in the spirit. You're striving to be. But there are coaches, trainers. I mean, how many times did the Lord said exhort? You have men in this truth that's meant to exhort you. Haggai was exhorting the men. You think Zerubbabel was perfect, man? He was the governor. But even he had to be corrected by Haggai. Let me get the book of Haggai. All right. Haggai chapter 1 and verse 12. Then Zerubbabel the son of Shealtiel and Joshua the son of Josedek the high priest with all the remnant of the people obeyed the voice of the Lord their God and the word of Haggai the prophet as the Lord their God had sent him, and the people did fear before the Lord. Then Haggai the Lord's messenger and the Lord's message unto the people. So the Lord had a messenger sent to Zerubbabel and Joshua the high priest. The Lord didn't come down and speak to them on his own. Like the Lord has messengers in these last days, different brothers in the truth, to correct you when you need to be corrected. It's okay, brother. Right? We all go off. We all need to be corrected. right? Even Zerubbabel laid his hand to the temple, man. Right, first. But what did Haggai say? Then, verse 13, then spake Haggai the Lord's messenger and the Lord's message unto the people, saying, I am with you, saith the Lord. And the Lord stirred up the spirit of Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah, and the spirit of Joshua, the son of Josedek, the high priest, and the spirit of all the remnant of the people, and they came and did the work in the house of the Lord of the host their God. So guess what? They were slothful. They stopped doing the work. They weren't on as fire as they was when they first put their hands to the plow. They started getting slothful. It was, we're going to finish this temple when it gets finished. But then the Lord had to stir up a messenger to correct the Joshua, the high priest, and Zerubbabel, man, to continue finishing his work and continue exhorting the other brothers to finish this work. And that's what had to happen. All right? So you got to understand something, man. Right? You have to be corrected just like our fathers. We're not better than our fathers. We're no better than our fathers. Right? Let me get the book of 2 Samuel. Let's get another account of that. This is 2 Samuel chapter 12 and verse 1. And the Lord sent Nathan unto David. Nathan was David's prophet, right? And he came unto him and said unto him, there were 2 men in one city, the one rich and the other poor. So he's about to give him a parable about what's about to happen, right? There's a rich man and a poor man. The rich man had exceeding many flocks and herds, but the poor man had nothing save one little ewe lamb, which he had bought and nourished up, and it grew up together with him. And with his children, it did eat of his own meat and drink of his own cup, and lay in his bosom, and was unto him as a daughter. So he had a rich man with much cattle. He had a poor man with one cattle that he treated like it was his own. Right? Verse 4, and there came a traveler unto the rich man, and he spared to take of his own flock and of his own herd to dress for the welfare man that was come unto him. So there's a traveler that came to the rich man, and he's like, instead of taking of my own cattle and giving them to this rich man, what? But took the poor man's lamb and dressed it for the man that was for it to come. So he's like, you know what? Let me take up this poor man's lamb. Let me take his possession that he had nourished up, his only possession, and let me give it to this traveler instead of taking of my own substance, right? Verse 5, and David's anger was greatly kindled against the man, and he said to Nathan, as the Lord liveth, the man that have done this thing shall surely die, right? That's off. You have a big abundance, but you go and take another poor man's only thing that he has and give it to somebody else and leave him with nothing while you have everything. So David was like, no, that's off. But he didn't know that this parable was talking about David himself, man. Because David took another man's wife while David already had a lot of wives, right? Verse 6, and he shall restore the lamb fourfold because he had did this thing and because he had no pity. Verse 7, and Nathan said to David, thou art the man. Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, thou art hurt. You are that man. Right? Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, I anointed thee king over Israel, and I delivered thee out of the hand of Saul, and gave thee thy master's house and thy master's wives into thy bosom, and gave thee the house of Israel and of Judah. And if that had been too little, I would moreover have given thee unto such and such things. So the Lord getting on him. The Lord said, hey, I gave you all these things. And if that wasn't even enough for you, I would have gave you more things, man. Right? And how can that be too little for a man? Right? But the Lord just saying, I would have gave you more. Verse 9, wherefore hast thou despised the commandment of the Lord to do evil in his sight? Thou hast killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword, and hast taken his wife to be thy wife, and hast slain him with the sword of the children of Ammon. Now therefore the sword shall never depart from thine house, because thou hast despised me, and hast taken thy wife of Uriah the Hittite to be thy wife. So guess what? Nathan corrected David. That's King David. And Nathan got on him for that, man, through the words of the Lord. He didn't hold nothing back. He didn't say, well, King David, you may want to hear this out. No, he got on him, man. He said, wherefore have you done this thing? You got your brother killed by the hand of your enemies of another nation. Took his wife to be yours, and you already had wives. Yeah, that's adultery, but that's also being covetous too, man. You wanted more than you could wish. I would have gave you everything, man. But you took your brother's wife and you killed him by the hand of your enemies. That's like giving your brother over to an Edomite to be killed. That's off, you know. But hey, even King David was corrected for his silly matter, man. But you got it.
Yeah, that's right. Like again, the brother said King David, he was not above correction, man. Right? You have multiple kings that had to say correction. Right? Let's go to let me see. It's 1 Samuel. Right? Because Saul, what happened to Saul? Saul has to get corrected. Saul went off. Right? Because again, the Lord, he charged Saul to do something specific. Right? He charged him to go to war, kill off all the Amalekites, destroy the cattle, etc. But Saul wanted to do what Saul wanted to do, his own lust and his own will. Right? Let's read this real quick. This 1 Samuel chapter 15 and verse. I'm gonna start at verse 1. I'm gonna jump. It says, Samuel also said unto Saul, the Lord sent me to anoint thee to be king over his people, over Israel. Now therefore hearken thou unto the voice of the words of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, I remember that which Amalek did to Israel, how he laid wait for him in the way when he came up from the wilderness. Right, you read that, I believe, in Numbers the 20th chapter. Right, what Amalek, they came up against us in the wilderness. Reading on verse 3. It says, now go and smite Amalek and utterly destroy all they have, and spare them not, but slay both men and women, infant and suckling, ox and sheep. And Saul gathered all the people together and numbered them in Telmah, 200,000 footmen and 10,000 men of Judah. So the Lord told Saul, he gave him specific directions. Go and utterly kill all of the Amalekites, right? The Amalekites. Kill all the men, kill all the women, all the oxen and the cattle they have, utterly slay it and destroy it. Jumping down to verse 20. Jumping down to this whole thing, fire. To verse 17. It says, and Samuel said, when thou was little. I'm gonna jump up to verse. All right, let's start at verse 14. It says, now this is when Samuel came back, right after Saul did what he did after he went to war. This is Samuel meeting up with Saul again. Verse 14. It says, and Samuel said, what meaneth this beetling of the sheep in my ears, and the lowing of the ox which I hear? So he's saying, why do I hear all these cattle? Didn't the Lord command Saul to kill all the cattle and oxen and sheep? Why do I hear the cattle, the oxen, and the sheep? So this was what Samuel was asking himself. Right, verse 15. It says, and Saul said, they have brought them from the Amalekites, for the people spared the best of the sheep and of the oxen to sacrifice unto the Lord thy God, and the rest we have utterly destroyed. Now Saul's mindset was, you know what? I know the Lord said kill all of the oxen, but I'm going to save the good ones for the sacrifices so I can praise the Lord. Now you may say, well, you know, he didn't really go off. He was looking out. He wanted to do right to the Lord. But ultimately, he was going off because he didn't do what the Lord commanded. The Lord commanded him to kill all the sheep and all the oxen, all the women, all the cattle, all the men, right? But what happened? Through his own will and what he wanted to do, he thought his counsel was better than what the Lord gave him, and he saved some. He spared some of the women, right? Spared the goodly women, right? And we're gonna see what else he did. I'm gonna jump down to verse 18. And the Lord sent thee on a journey. All right, verse 17. Right, and Samuel said, when thou was little in thine own sight, was thou not made the head of the tribes? So the same way how Samuel is getting on King Saul, the same way how Nathan the prophet got on David. Now he's about to remind him all the things that the Lord done for him. Verse 17. And Samuel said, when thou was little in thine own sight, was thou not made, in thine own sight, was thou not made the head of the tribes of Israel? And the Lord anointed thee king over Israel? And the Lord sent thee on a journey, and he said, go and utterly destroy the sinners of the Amalekites, and fight against them until they be consumed. Wherefore didst thou not obey the voice of the Lord, but didst fly upon the spoil, and didst evil in the sight of the Lord? And Saul said unto Samuel, yeah, I have obeyed the voice of the Lord. So the difference between King David's situation and King Saul's situation, when Saul was getting on, when Samuel was getting on King Saul, hey Saul, what did he do? He said, you know what? I hear what you're saying, but I obeyed the voice of the Lord. He didn't take the correction like how David did. David, he took it, he repented, he wept, he fasted and cried. But what does Saul say again? Verse 20. It says, and Saul said unto Samuel, yeah, I have obeyed the voice of the Lord, and have gone the way which the Lord sent me, and brought Agag, the king of Amalek, and have utterly destroyed the Amalekites. That's what you call a reprobate mind. Right? The Lord said, kill all the Amalekites. He said, I did. I only spared the king and killed everybody else. I did do what's right in the eyes of the Lord. And that's where being puffed up and pride come in at. Right? When that pride start feeding into your spirit and you're not taking care of it, that's when the Lord will overthrow you, man. And that's why eventually King Saul, he ended up getting overthrown because he couldn't take correction. Here you have it, a prophet of the Lord. It's telling you that you didn't do nothing right, and the Lord told him to tell you that, and it's a prophet. And you say, well, hold on, I know you're a prophet, I know the Lord told you this, but hey, I did what I was supposed to do. That right, that's off. You coming up to the man of the Lord, you saying, I know you said do A, B, and C, but I did my own thing and it's right in my eyes. That's essentially what he said. Verse 21 says, but the people took of the spoil, sheep and oxen, the chief of the things which have been utterly destroyed, to sacrifice unto the Lord thy God in Gilgal. And Samuel said, hath the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices? Same trouble. Right, I'm gonna jump down to verse number 24. It says, and Saul said unto Samuel, I have sinned, for I have transgressed the commandment of the Lord and thy words, because I feared the people and obeyed their voice. So instead of obeying the Lord and taking correction in the first place, the Lord had to take his spirit away for him to receive that he did wrong. And it shouldn't take the Lord for him to take his spirit away and the wisdom for you to know that you did wrong. But nevertheless, when you get it corrected, you want to move more in the spirit of David than in the spirit of King Saul. You want to take the correction, you want to learn and apply it. Right, you got it.
Oh, that's right. Right, and not being corrected is a heathenish custom. Heathens heathens are prideful, because it all goes back to pride at the end of the day. These heathens are prideful, man. These heathens, let's get an account of a heathen being prideful. Right? Let's go to the book of 2 Maccabees. 2 Maccabees chapter 9, and I'll start at verse, and this whole thing is good. Right, it's 2 Maccabees chapter 9, and I'll start at verse 9. So that the worms rose up out of his, actually let me start at verse 7. Howbeit he nothing at all ceased from his bragging, but was filled with pride, breathing out fire in his rage against the Jews, right, talking about the Edomite, right, Nicanor, right, acting like a dragon, and commanding to haste the journey. But it came to pass that he fell down from his chariot and carried violently, so that having a sore fall, all the members of his body were much pain. And thus he that a little afore thought he might command the waves of the sea. That's so proud. You think you can command the waves of the sea. So proud, and was beyond the condition of man. How prideful you got to be beyond the condition of man? That's a heathenish thing, right? And it says, and weighed the high mountains, and the balance was now cast on the ground, and carried in all the horse litters, showing forth unto all the manifest power of Yahweh. This man was so prideful, the Most High had to humble him his damn self, man. No other man was going to do it. The Most High had to do it. Right, let me get the book of Judith, chapter 5. And verse 21. Now Achior is giving an account of our people on why we are the only nation standing up to King Nebuchadnezzar. And he's telling the truth. Right, verse 21. But if there be no iniquity in their nation, let my Lord now pass by, lest their Lord defend them and their God before them, and we become a reproach before all the world. And when Achior had finished these sayings, all the people standing round the tent murmured, and the chief men of Holofernes and all that dwelt by the seaside, and Moab spake that they should kill him. Right, because they think that, he was telling Nebuchadnezzar that you are a little girl, you should be scared of them, but he's only giving an account of that the Most High is their God, he will defend them. Let's see how he responded to that. This is Judith chapter 6, and I'll start at verse 5. And it says, and thou Achior, and hireling of Ammon, which has spoken these words in the day of thine iniquity, shall see my face no more from this day until I take vengeance of this nation that came out of Egypt. So he disregarded the correction that this man was telling him. He said, look, these people are strong people when their God is with them. If you want to take them down, have them depart from their God. He said, you know what? How about you go over there and I'm going to still destroy that nation? Right? Verse 6, and then shall the sword of my army and the multitude of them that serve me pass through thy sides, and thou shalt fall among their slain when I return. He said, and when I come back, then, hey, guess what? You're going to die too. You see that? And if you read the book of Judith, we can tell that this actually didn't happen. Right? The children of Israel overcame, And this man was, guess what? The Most High had to correct him by killing him and his army, man. So when not being corrected is a heathenish custom, right? We're not heathens, man. We're the Israelites. We got to know how to be corrected. Let's see Moses. Moses was corrected, right? By his father-in-law. You get the book of Exodus chapter 18. Right? It's Exodus chapter 18. And verse, I'm going to start at verse 14. And when Moses' father-in-law saw all that he did to the people, he said, what is this thing that thou doest to the people? Why sittest thou thyself alone, and among all the people stand by thee from morning to evening? And Moses said unto his father-in-law, because the people come unto me to inquire of God. And when they have a matter, they come unto me, and I judge between them one another, and I do make them know the law, the statutes of God and his laws. So Moses was taking all the responsibility on himself. All 600,000 footmen that came out the wilderness, Moses was tending to their problems one by one. It was no telling how busy Moses was, and his father-in-law was like, hold on, what are you doing? You're going to burn yourself out, right? Verse 17, and Moses' father-in-law said unto him, the thing that thou doest is not good. Thou wilt surely wear away both thou and this people that is with thee, for this thing is too heavy for thee. Thou art not able to perform thyself alone. Hearken now unto my voice. I will give thee counsel, and God shall be with thee. But be thou for the people to Godward, and thou mayest bring the causes unto God. Right? So he's going to tell him, when you read later on in this chapter, set up officers, set up captains over 50, captains, rulers over thousands, rulers over hundreds, rulers over 50s, so they can also, you have to delegate the matter to these people. And that's the correction he's given to Moses, right? And that's the correction that was given to Moses. And did Moses despise that correction? Did Moses say, you're a heathen, you're a Midianite, get away from me? He didn't say that, man. He listened to the correction that was given to him, and he applied that. Let's get one more account, right? And when the Lord corrects you, as we read how the Lord corrects these heathens, the Lord will correct us in front of everybody, man. You better take the correction that the Lord has given you from that man, the man that he sent to talk to you. Because if the Lord corrects you, it will be in front of everybody. Let's see what he did to Aaron. All right, this is Numbers chapter 30. Actually, this is Numbers chapter... What was it, priest? I just had it. Bear with me. Right? Numbers chapter 20 and verse 23. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in Mount Hor by the coast of the land of Edom, saying, Aaron shall be gathered unto his people, for he shall not enter into the land which I have given unto the children of Israel, because you rebelled against my word at the water of Meribah. So the Lord said, you're not going to enter into my land. That's first and foremost, because you rebelled against my word. But what else is going to happen? Take Aaron and Eleazar his son and bring them up to Mount Hor. So now Aaron and his son is going to be brought up before the congregation of all the people at Mount Hor. Everybody can see them. Everybody's watching this account. It's not them by themselves, right? It's not in the middle of the night. This is happening before everybody. Verse 26, and strip Aaron of his garments and put them upon Eleazar his son, and Aaron shall be gathered unto his people and shall die there. And Moses did as the Lord commanded, and they went up into the Mount Hor in the sight of all the congregation. And Moses stripped Aaron of his garments and put them on Eleazar his son, and Aaron died there in the top of the mount. And Moses and Eleazar came down from the mount. And when all the congregation saw that Aaron was dead, they murmured for Aaron. They mourned for Aaron 30 days, even all the house of Israel. That's embarrassing. You got your garment stripped in front of everybody and gave it to your son. I mean, how does your son feel about this right now? How can he even look up to you as a father now? Damn, my dad was wicked. That's probably what he was thinking. My dad was off. He was given a job. Well, I got to perform the job now. I got to carry this weight now. And then died in front of everybody, just dead. He's just dead. And Aaron was an honorable man. But the Lord corrected Aaron. First, he told him to your face, you're not getting the promised land. That's the last words you hear before the Lord before you die. And then he told him, hey, and your son's going to have your garments. And you got to go up to Mount Hor and do it before all the side of the children of Israel. And then you're going to die. And then he died. That's crazy. That's not off. That's just crazy. And guess what? He was corrected by the Lord. But you got it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. The Lord will get up with you, right? If you're not taking correction. Now this is the book of 1 Kings chapter 22 and verse, you know what I'm saying? All these chapters are going in correction. These books is fire. All right, this 1 Kings 22. Now I'm going to start at verse 12. It says, and all the prophets prophesied, saying, go up to Ramoth Gilead and prosper, for the Lord shall deliver it into the king's hands. Now you have all the prophets, right, coming up to the king and telling the king, yeah, you know, if you go up to Ramoth Gilead, you're going to prosper, you're going to win. Right, you're going to win this battle. But what happened? You have by the name of Micaiah, right, verse 13. And the messenger that was gone to call Micaiah spake unto him, saying, behold, now the words of the prophets declare good unto the king with one mouth. Right, because all the prophets they brought together and they consulted, they had counsel asking, should this man go to war? All of them said yes, but they didn't bring up one man, Micaiah. Right, it says, saying, behold, now the words of the prophet declare good unto the king with one mouth. Let thy word, I pray thee, be like the word of them that speak, which is good. So Micaiah, when you read the earlier, you know what I'm saying, the earlier part of the chapter, they said that this prophet, he always prophesied evil. Right, every time they come up to me and I ask them to prophesy what's gonna happen, it's always evil in my name. So they didn't bring, from the beginning they didn't bring him up. But now all that the prophets is saying yes, they're starting to bring him up and they're hoping that he says yes. Right, verse 14. It said, and Micaiah said unto the Lord, and Micaiah said, as the Lord liveth, what the Lord saith unto me, that will I speak. Jumping down to verse number 17. So when you read this, he asked him, what does he think? What does she do? Right, and he ended up telling him, I'm going to read verse 15. So he came to the king and said, and said unto him, Micaiah, shall we go against Ramoth Gilead to battle, or shall we forbear? And he answered him, go and prosper, for the Lord shall deliver it into the hand of the king. And the king said unto him, how many times shall I adjure thee, that thou tell me nothing but that which is true in the name of the Lord? So I'm led to believe he was being kind of sarcastic when he said that. Yeah, go up, you're gonna prosper, right? Because he already knew how Micaiah was coming. Verse 16. And the king said unto him, it's like verse 17. And he said, I saw Israel scattered upon the hills as sheep that have not a shepherd. And the Lord said, these have no master. Let them return every man to his house in peace. And the king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat, did I not tell thee that he will prophesy no good concerning me, but evil? Jumping down to verse number 24. It says, but Zedekiah, who's the king, right, the son of Kenana, went near and smote Micaiah on the cheek and said, which way went the spirit of the Lord from me to speak unto thee? Right, because when you read from verse 18 on down, he told him that it was a spirit that the Lord sent down to confound your prophets, to give you false counsel when really you're going to go up and fall before them. He said, you know what, you lying. He went up to him and he smote him across the cheek, meaning he didn't take that correction that the Lord gave him. He wanted to do his own thing, right? Let me read that part again, verse 24. It says, right, verse 24, but Zedekiah the son of Kenana went near and smote Micaiah on the cheek and said, which way did the spirit of the Lord from me? So, which way the spirit of the Lord from me to speak unto thee? And Micaiah said, behold, thou shalt see in that day when thou shalt go and enter chamber to hide thyself. And the king of Israel said, take Micaiah and carry him back unto Amnon, and governor of the city, and Joash the king's son. So we're going to see what happened to this king. Jumping down to verse number 34. It says, and a certain man drew a bow at a venture and smote the king of Israel between his joints. So this man got puffed up to where he smote him across the cheek, right? And then when you keep reading on, he got puffed up to where he said he's going to come back. And Micaiah said, you know what I'm saying, roughly paraphrasing, if you come back, then the Lord didn't prophesy my name. But we see when we jump down to verse 34, reading again, it says, and a certain man drew a bow at a venture and smote the king of Israel between his joints of his harness. Wherefore he said unto the driver of his chariot, turn thine hand and carry me out of the host, for I am wounded. So this man ended up dying, man. He got smote, all because he didn't listen to the words of Micaiah the prophet, and he didn't take warning, he didn't take the correction. Let's go to the book of Galatians chapter 2. Right, let's go to Galatians chapter 2 and verse number 7. Right, you had a man by the name of Peter, right, the rock of the church. Right, it's the book of Galatians chapter 2 and verse number 11. And again, no man is over correction. Right, Peter had to get corrected by Paul.
All right.
It's the book of Galatians 2 and verse 11. It says, but when Peter was come to Antioch, I withstood him to the face, because he was to be blamed. So Paul said when Peter came to Antioch, he withstood him to the face. Meaning, Paul was playing no games. He went to his face and withstood him. Right? He's going to tell you why. Verse 12. It says, for before that certain came from James. He did eat with the Gentiles, but when they were come, he withdrew and separated himself, fearing them which were of the circumcision. So Peter was being two-faced, right? He would act one way towards the Jews and then one way when he was around the Gentiles, right? Kind of framing himself up, right? To be to be in a different type of spirit, right? On the left-hand side, verse 13, it says, and the Jews dissembled likewise with them, and so much that Barnabas also was carried away with their dissimulation. So Barnabas was even a part of it, right? They probably doing God knows what behind closed doors, having conversations they're not supposed to be having. And he was doing all these things when he was around the Jews. First, when he was around somebody else, he was mighty, he was in the spirit. But then you doing all type of folly around other people. Right, verse 14. But when I saw that they walked not uprightly, according to the truth of the gospel, I said unto Peter before them all. Right, he said to Peter before them all, meaning he didn't take him behind closed doors. Right, he didn't wait till everything was all done. No, he said before them all, if thou, being a Jew, liveth after the manner of the Gentiles, and not do as the Jews, why compellest thou the Gentiles to live as the Jews do? So Peter was supposed to be an example, right? Because we read verse 7, it says, but contrariwise, when they saw that the gospel of the uncircumcision was committed unto me, as the gospel of the circumcision was committed unto Peter. So Peter's office was to go to the Jews that kept the law, and to be a perfect example unto them, and to be blameless. But what happened? He was doing all type of mischief and things behind closed doors, when really he was supposed to be that righteous example, and he wasn't doing that. So Paul, what did he do? He had to get on him, and it said he withstood him to the face before them all. And Peter, there's no account of Peter bucking up against that. There's no account of Peter saying, well, hold on, I'm the rock of the church, I'm the top apostle, you know what I'm saying, the Lord taught me personally, you can't tell me nothing. No, Peter had to take that correction. Peter took the correction. That's how you know the mightiest men are the men that can take correction. Peter's gonna be on the 12 on the thrones judging the 12 tribes of Israel, right? But who's not? It's King Saul. He's not gonna be on the thrones judging Israel. Why? Because he couldn't take that correction. Let me get this real quick in Sirach 20:1. It's the book of Sirach, chapter 20 and verse number 1. It says, there is a reproof that is not comely. So the Lord said, a way a man may correct you, even though it's correction, it may not be comely. It may not be nice all the time, right? Because again, sometimes you just got to get God on.
That's right.
Right, when Paul got on Peter, it wasn't a comely reproof. It wasn't a proof that was all nice and, you know what I'm saying, it's all good, Arkansas, all right, you know what I'm saying, the Most High will you over. No, Peter got on him, man, right? And the Lord said there's a reproof that is not comely. And again, you got to be able to take that reproof and take that correction. You got to take it on the chin, right? So I know some brothers, I was talking to a brother one time. We was talking about getting corrected. He was saying sometimes you got to correct brothers. Look like brothers about to cry.
Yeah. Right?
Because brothers, I mean, it is what it is. You got to take it, right? But nevertheless, a real mighty man, a man that wants to move in the spirit of Yahushua, a man that wants to be an elect, or a woman, right? The woman that wants to increase and be the elect and they mighty in the spirit. Those are the type of people that are going to take correction and humble down. Let me get this last one real quick. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 6. It's Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 6 and verse 1. It says, hear therefore, O ye kings, and understand. Learn, ye that be judges to the ends of the earth. So the Lord said a king, a judge, he's going to learn and understand. And when you taking correction, that's you understanding the matter. Understanding how to move. That's learning, taking correction. And again, the Lord, he pointed out to who? The kings and the rulers of the earth. So that even shows the king, he has to be in the spirit of being able to get judged and corrected. Right, but you got it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I mean, if you being corrected, you about to cry, man, you gotta examine your spirit.
Yeah.
You know, you getting teary-eyed. You know, you said, why you yelling at me? All right, it's Sirach 32:17. A sinful man would not be reproved, but finding an excuse according to his will. So that's you won't. If you saying a lot of excuses, well, because of this, well, I would have had to do that if that didn't happen.
Right.
Well, if this happened, well, if you didn't do this, that, and you blaming other people, you start to deflect, right? You start to say, well, you did this, or I wouldn't have to do it if you did. Brother,
Right.
just say Salaki.
Right.
Just be corrected. Right? That's what Adam and Eve did. They started just blaming each other, man. Right? Let me get that in Genesis. Nobody accounted for that sin. It's Genesis chapter 3. And I'm gonna start at verse 10. 9. And the Lord God called unto Adam and said unto him, where art thou? Right? And he said, I've heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid. Right? He heard the prophets. The prophets were there in the ancient world, declaring the voice of the Lord. And he said, I was afraid because I was naked, I hid myself. And he said, who told thee that thou was naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee that thou shouldest not eat? Right? So he's asking a rhetorical question. He just wants to see if he can own up to it. Right? He said, well, have you did what I told you not to do? And let's see what he said. And the man said, the woman whom thou gavest to be with me, she gave me the tree and I did eat. The first thing he said was, well, the woman you gave me, she went off and then she enticed me. He didn't say Salakia. Right? Why do you think he went to the man first? Because he's ahead, he's in charge. But he started to blame his woman. All right? And it says, verse 13, and the Lord God said unto the woman, what is this that thou hast done? And what did the woman say? And the woman said, the serpent beguiled me and I did eat. So Adam blamed his woman. The woman blamed the snake, right? Which was really a man. Well, she blamed another man of another nation. So everybody's just pointing fingers at each other, man. Nobody's taking accountability. Nobody's taking ownership. Everybody's just giving excuses on why they went off, man. And you can't be a person that just gives excuses. You just gotta say Salakia, man, and just move forward, man. Right? You just gotta be humble. That's all it goes back to at the end of the day. If you just humble, what the Lord say about humility? Right? This is the book of Matthew, chapter 5, and verse 5. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. So the people that are humble are going to inherit the earth. The people that are humble, they're going to be the ones to declare justice and judgment in the earth, man. They're going to want us to be on sit on the thrones, having lands, thousands of slaves, chariots, wives, responsibilities, rulership, sovereignty, peace, power with the rod of iron. Those are the ones that are going to be meek, right? Let me go to the book of Zephaniah 2 and 3. Let me end it on this, man. Right, it's Zephaniah chapter 2. Actually, let me go to James. This is a good one right here. This is James chapter 5. Right? James chapter 4 and verse 6. But he giveth more grace, wherefore he saith that Yahweh resisteth the proud, but giveth grace unto the humble. Don't you think Adam and Eve could have got grace if they just owned up to what they did? Shalakia, I don't want Yahweh shot. I went off. That's totally on me. I wasn't doing what I need to do. You can't get mad at somebody for telling the truth. You know, you can't get mad at somebody. It's only when they start to lie and give excuses where you get more inflamed with anger, man. But the Lord said he gives more grace into the humble. All you got to do is be humble and accept correction, and you can find grace in the person that you went off against, and ultimately against the Most High. But you got it.
Yeah, that's right. Let's go to the book of Job. I want to say, let me find this quick precept. Job, I want to say that's 32. All right, this is the book of Job, chapter 32, and verse number 1. All right. I'm starting at verse 1. It says, so these three men ceased to answer Job because he was righteous in his own eyes. Right? So when you read the book of Job, these men, they kept coming up against Job unrighteously when Job was in the spirit of sorrow and mourning. They wasn't reproving him and correcting him in the way that they should have been. Right? Reading on verse 2. Then was kindled the wrath of Elihu, the son of Barachel, the Buzite of the kindred of Ram. Against Job was his wrath kindled because he justified himself rather than God. Also against his three friends was his wrath kindled, because they had found no answer, yet had condemned Job. Now Elihu had waited till Job had spoken, because they were elder than him. So Elihu, he's listening to this back and forth with Job and his friends, but he's holding his peace until it's the right time for him to speak, because they're the elders. Right, reading on, verse 5. Now Elihu saw that there was no answer in the mouth of these three men. Then his wrath was kindled. And Elihu, the son of Barachel, the Buzite, answered and said, I am young, and ye are very old. So he said, I'm young, and you guys are the elders. Y'all are very old. He about to get on them. It says, wherefore I was afraid and durst not show you my opinion. So at first, again, he held his peace. He didn't know if he should kind of get in there and correct and speak his mind. Verse 7, it says, I said, days, slack. Well, I'll leave off here. Verse 7. I said, days should speak, and multitude of years should teach wisdom. But there is a spirit in man, and the inspiration of the Almighty giveth understanding. Great men are not always wise, neither do the aged understand judgment. So after him holding his peace, he was holding back. Now he got to get on the elders. Verse 10, wherefore I said, hearken to me. I also will shew mine opinion. Behold, I waited for your words. I gave ear to your reasons whilst he searched out what to say. Yet I attended unto you, and behold, there was none of you that conceived Job or that answered his words. So he said, out of this whole time, none of you are actually listening to and giving him the things that he needs to comfort him. Y'all just getting on him. And again, you read Job, the first and second chapter, Job called hell. There his wife coming up against him, kids died, his cattle and his money all taken away, he's homeless, servants got slew, right? Reading on, it says, verse 14, now he hath not directed his words against me, neither will I answer him with your speeches. It says, they were amazed, they answered no more, they left off speaking. So these men, they left off speaking after what? After he got corrected. And again, sometimes all you need, like the brother saying, when you get corrected, just say, you're right. Actually examine and search out and see if they were right. Listen. Don't just be hasty to just say something back. Like you said, you got that yeah, but spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, yeah, I see. And then you get that one brother, you say, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I know. I see your point. Well, brother, do you understand? Do you understand what's actually being brought out? They just say, yeah, I see your point. Right? And again, you don't want to be able to move in that spirit. You want to be able to take the correction. Because again, you have men of old that actually did it and been through it. Right? Like how I say in Romans chapter 15 and verse 4. Let's get this in real quick. Hebrews chapter 2 and verse number 1. Let's get Hebrews chapter 2 and verse number 1. It says, wherefore we ought to give more earnest heed to the things which we have heard. So the things in the Bible, the things that we read, we ought to take the earnest heed to these things. Right? The elders, when they giving you counsel, or they just giving you wisdom, you want to take the most earnest things to the things that you hear. It says, at least at any time we shall let them slip. And right, and you don't want to let these words, the wisdom, the counsel on the right hand side, you don't want these different things to slip. Because if it slip, essentially the Lord, right, can take away your spirit. All right, but we got one more precept before we close out. Job chapter 5 and verse number 17. It's Job chapter 5 verse 17. It says, be happy. It's like it says, behold, happy is the man whom God correcteth. Therefore despise not the chastening of the Almighty. And you don't want to despise the chastening or the correction and reproof of the Almighty. You want to be able to take in consideration all the things that the Lord has done for you, or all the wisdom and different. You want to be thankful for the things that you have, right? For the wisdom, you want to be thankful for to know the words of the Lord, be able to go in your Bible, read and see and discern the different accounts. The man that set over you, you want to be able to take that time and listen and grasp as much wisdom and understanding as you can from these men that the Lord set up. Right, you got it.
And with that, we'd like to give our praise and honor and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, his brother Zabayala,
Brother Marquas.
and keep this Shabbat day holy. Lord willing, if you brothers are out there watching this and you about to go to camp, or if you know you at camp, Lord willing, a brother wakes up a mighty member of the elect, man. We almost out of here. Keep watching the prophecies, keep enduring the faith, keep enduring all the temptations, right? And do not forget this work. And keep get Numbers chapter, not Numbers, Nehemiah 6:3, Baba Kasha, last precept. Do not forget this work. No matter what problem you're going through, no matter what demon you fighting, be corrected in a righteous manner, right? If you're given the correction, do it not in a way where it upbraideth your friend, right? Where he doesn't offend him. But we cannot forget this work, man. Read that.
This Nehemiah chapter 6 and verse 3. And I sent messengers unto them, saying, I am doing a great work.
What are we doing?
I am doing a great work.
We doing a great work out here, man. It's a great work we're doing. We almost done. All the weight of the world, the weight of Yasha'al is on our shoulders. We can't slip. We doing?
So that I cannot come down. Why should the work cease?
What he asked?
Why should the work cease?
I got bills.
Why should the work cease?
I'm about to go to jail.
Why should the work cease?
The work shouldn't cease no matter what is going on, man. Why should the work cease? We doing?
Once I leave it and come down to you.
See that? All right, so we like to give our praise to Yahweh Shema Shah. May the mighty strong Shalom.
Shalom.